Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am here with Josh Liebman from Roller Software. And Josh, you have the coolest title of all that we were just talking about. It's Guest Experience Evangelist with Roller Software. So welcome, Josh. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Russ. Yeah, I completely agree. It's the most unique job title I've ever had. So I'm just spreading the good word and the importance of why guest experience should be so important to your business. And I've been working with Roller Software since close to the beginning of the year here. And
Nice.
it's been a phenomenal experience.
Well, and it sounds like they're putting you to work with the Guest Experience podcast, and they're having you create new content all about different ways to be able to do that. And we were actually doing your podcast earlier, and we had the great idea of, let's also share this through our platform as well, because you know, you've been to events that we put on, and you know the focus that we try and have, and as Creative Works and the builder of the actual attractions and things, we're also very aware of, you know, we have to build in really cool elements that will facilitate a guest experience or be part of a guest experience. But it only goes so far, and that the staff and the team that help execute that and put on the extra touches once it's in the wild, so to speak. It's all of that coming together, and I'm really excited to get into some of what that, you know, how do we look at, you know, anything from friction points and convenience, and you know, what are those things that you guys are seeing going into a really well-defined guest experience, and so that way we can learn a little bit and hopefully have some seeds that our listeners can check out and explore a little further.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, groovy. Well, so let's talk about friction in the guest experience, and that can come everywhere from before they even enter into your facility, when they're looking to make their initial purchases, or when they are there, and we talk about the use of technology to help smooth out these pieces, whether it's through kiosks and or online, you know, packages and stuff that you can do. But then it also gets into, you know, wait lines for food and beverage, and it gets into, you know, getting into the attractions that you bought, you know, whether it's a game of laser tag or your round of go-karts and all of that. What are you guys seeing as kind of some of the 30,000 foot view areas of these are always spots that we need to keep our antenna tuned towards as operators to because there's inherently going to have points of friction? And then what do you then look to mitigate those or smooth out those points?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a phenomenal question. So looking at it from the 30,000 foot view, you have the opportunity then to look at your guest experience from every single stage of the guest journey. So if we really break it into, let's say, three main components, there's pre-visit, there's while the guest is on site, and there's post-visit. And even pre-visit could be broken down into, well, you're attracting their attention, and then you're engaging them into the actual purchase. And then even in the post-visit, you want to do a couple of things, talking about wanting them to return again, and then even wanting them to advocate for you. And then during venue visit, I feel like is what a lot of people put a lot of attention on, because that's probably most front and center, is what's happening within their four walls or within their gates or so while the guest is on site. But let's look at it from the full cycle of the guest experience. So when you look at that, then you can identify friction points that maybe are common throughout the industry, or maybe things that weren't necessarily considered to be friction points just a couple of years ago. But now the expectations are changing. So if you look at the way that guests come to an expectation for what they perceive their experience is going to be when they visit, really has accelerated a lot. And it's not necessarily kind of a straight line. It's almost like an angled line here, or I'll do it both ways depending on which way the camera is getting, kind of more of an up and to the right type thing, which means that the expectation itself is rising over time. So if you look at, as time goes on, what we expect now is different than what we expected 5 years ago, 10 years ago, honestly, 2 years ago. And I've even been saying, you know, the pandemic itself has really changed the way that people expect their experience. And part of that, of course, is specific to the virus itself. People are more conscious with health and safety. If you don't have hand sanitizer stations throughout your facility, that could be a friction point in the guest experience. Or if your soap dispensers are empty, that's always been a friction point in guest experience. Now that friction point is even worse because that expectation has gone up. And then if we were to backtrack that and look at this in the pre-visit component, you look at maybe businesses like Amazon and Netflix and Uber and DoorDash, and you probably don't necessarily think of yourself as competing with those types of businesses because those are obviously very different industries.
Right.
But what people are forming expectations now transcend industries. So people are comparing their visit to your facility to the last great experience they had, regardless of industry. Yeah. So for the last year and a half, I primarily have been buying my groceries online with Amazon, and they show up at my doorstep. And there's no exchange of cash. I don't get in my car, and all of that. Netflix, now I'm able to watch just about, Netflix and all the other streaming shows, streaming services that now I subscribe to over the last year.
Paramount Plus, Hulu, ESPN 38, all of them. Yeah.
And every single one of them. You've got access to all that at your fingertips. You don't need to put in as much effort to find the movie or the TV show that you want to watch.
Right.
And then DoorDash, food delivery, it's just so easy and it's so convenient. Yeah. And the reason why it's convenient is because those businesses have removed so much of the friction from the experience.
Yeah.
So now think of this in the attraction space and in the FEC space. What are you doing to remove that friction? Mm-hmm. If someone loads up your website and on the header, there's this giant menu bar and it says plan your visit, and you click on that, and you scroll down the page, hours, you click on that, prices, you click on that, and then maybe there's a buy now button at some point there. 10 years ago, that was probably already a little outdated. 15 years ago, that was probably okay. Mm-hmm. Today, that expectation has gone up. So even if you're looking at the standpoint of buying tickets, which arguably is one of the most important things your guests are doing when they come visit, is that front and center on your website? Are you removing the friction, and are you making it more convenient for guests to be able to click that buy ticket button, and then in a matter of just a couple of minutes, now they've secured in their commitment to come visit you, rather than continuing to click, continuing to scroll, continuing to try to learn and understand. Is it intuitive for the guest to purchase?
Right.
Once they arrive on site, how easy is it for them to use that ticket that they've already purchased to now access your facility? Are you using things like scanners or QR codes in some cases, or does the guest need to now wait in a long line, which may have been acceptable, let's just say, in the past?
Sure.
Now, people want that higher degree of convenience, so that the easier, the more efficiently they're able to get into your facility, the faster they're now having fun, right? Because you've taken out, I would say, a compulsory component of the visit that is much easier for the guest to go through that process and get to the part where they're having fun, and of course now spending more money. So those are just a couple of examples of some friction in the guest experience that you want to be looking at, of saying, are we really smoothing these out, and are we making it very convenient for our guests to do this?
Well, and I love that mentality, right? Because it is our day-to-day experiences, just as how we consume products and consumables. Every bit sets the expectation of this. And so one of the things that I've talked with customers about is you really need to start looking at this as more of like a click and mortar type operation, where some of the heavy lifting or the initial buying or the priming for some of that stuff will likely get done now before they ever actually step into your facility. It used to be that the internet was to help you decide where you want to go. Now it's, okay, well, I have 6 options. Which is the easiest for me to get to and engage with and do all of that? And so then you look at things like TSA pre-check, where folks don't want to have to wait in line. People are wanting to pay for convenience and access and proximity and ease. And so we still need to look at what are our tools. Website used to be much more of a you are here type of a thing. And how do you get to us when you're driving your car and doing all of that? And now, and it has been, but we need to be more intentional about getting it to the next level of this, is helping them make decisions, easier and more seamlessly, while still getting the exposure of here's all the things that we can do. But it's shifting, if you bought this, if you bought a laser tag and a go-kart package and a pre-meal family pack piece, like you'd probably also like this. And so it's upsells, it's that consistent piece. where again, it's not a pressure environment, but it's just helping them make sure that they're getting to see everything you have to offer. But before they've ever even stepped foot in, you now have had an extension of your culture and your facility where they've already spent a decent amount of time and formed a lot of opinions about what their experience is going to be before they step in. And then they're going to spend their time justifying what that gut feeling was. And so we really want to make sure that we're aggressive in how we're engaging them that way, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. And there's benefits to both the guest and to the business for removing those friction points and making it more convenient. You brought up TSA PreCheck. Ever since I got TSA PreCheck several years ago, I can now A, arrive at the airport later, and B, I still have time to sit down and have a cup of coffee and maybe have a snack or so. So there's now that post TSA revenue that's able to be generated from that standpoint, because I've paid for something that allows me to have more convenience and allows me to have more time and make it a more comfortable experience. With your FEC or with your attraction, you spend more of that time and more of that dollar up front with that advanced purchase. By the time the guest walks into your building, they now feel that their wallet is full again. This is true in large-scale theme parks where people are spending 6 months, in advance for a Disney vacation or a Universal vacation. And it's true too with an FEC or with a trampoline park. Even if they bought it a week in advance, they're coming in, they haven't spent any money yet, or at least that's how they feel. So that drives that in-park revenue substantially, just because of the way that the guest feels and that they feel that their wallet is now full again when they come in.
Interesting. So Josh, talk to me a little bit about, obviously with Roller software, you guys are looking at solving some pretty substantial challenges for guests. What are some of the big pieces that you see that they are continually faced with, outside of friction points? And what are you guys doing through the product specifically? I know, as a guest experience evangelist, you're not a product evangelist, but I think what you guys do is so cool and critical that I'm gonna force you to brag on the company side a little bit.
Sure, absolutely. So, a lot of it really does go hand in hand, because what the product is designed to do is to help your staff provide an even superior experience, because they're not necessarily as bogged down with using the software, and neither is the guest. So it really comes at it from both ends. So if you look at it from the point of sale standpoint, we talked a little bit about this earlier, of that advanced purchase and the importance of that, and making that very intuitive and making it easy for the guest to understand and to purchase. And then through the arrival experience, that the software is helping to reduce those friction points and make it more convenient, make it more efficient. Now you can have a staff member who is serving more guests at once, compared to if you've got just a long row of cash registers and points of sale, and every single guest needs to wait in a line and get up to this one and do that. That still, I would say, is probably a traditional model for many people. But now, if much of that A has been done in advance, now it's an easier, smoother check-in process. Or B, if some of it even is self-service when they arrive, whether it's through kiosks or terminal stations, well, now we can have one person who's able to oversee and take out the actual transactional element of that in some cases, while helping the guest with that. And then when they are at that point of sale, and if the staff is using the software, then it needs to be very easy for the staff to pick up and understand, and does not require extensive training into the actual application and into the technology. So the staff needs to be able to also quickly, efficiently, and of course also accurately ring in a transaction for the guest, process the payment, and get them on their way. Because even though people want to go visit those attractions, they don't want to spend their time buying tickets and getting bogged down in those specific logistics of the elements of the actual transaction. So you can help to alleviate some of that. Now the staff even feels better, because now they're rocking and rolling more and able to process more guests per hour, and able to spend more time focusing on the actual experience and the personalization of the service for the guest, rather than just clicking around through the point of sale.
Well, and I think that's the really mission critical piece that really resonated with me was, look, it's technology for technology's sake is a short-term gain, where it's what are the problems that we're solving? What does this now help us do more of, right? Does it increase our capacity or our ability to serve? And that to me, I think is such a critical element, as I said, because we're all dealing with either labor shortages or, not having the right folks or the right personalities. There may be bodies available, but, and not to mention, remember, 18 months ago when we just thought that the increase in minimum wage was going to be the death because we weren't going to be able to afford to keep staff numbers up and all of that. And what this allows us to do is not replace staff, but help us get more efficiencies and more output from them. And altruistically creating a better experience and financially and from a business side of things, increasing their ability to spend dollars and feel more comfortable because there is value to that. And so to me, it's exciting to see these, where we start to get more of a 1 + 1 = 3 impact when we start looking at it from that perspective. And again, not using a cleaver, but maybe a little bit more of a fillet knife when we're looking at staffing decisions. But if we're going to do that, then what? And now we still need to be getting further faster with that. So,
and if you can increase the value per staff member, then you're not feeling as pressured from these external forces to raise those wages, because now they genuinely are worth more because they're able to spend more time focusing on the guest and naturally weaving in upsell opportunities without it just kind of being that rote mechanical, almost would you like fries with that type of mentality.
Right.
But now if you're able to spend more time with the guest, if you're able to enhance the staff's proficiency with that and their ability to actually fulfill it, now you're just naturally going to see a much higher per cap.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to wrap us up at that point, Josh. I appreciate you so much. And I always enjoy the opportunity to nerd out with you on this. As we've said in the past, this is both very much within our soul. And so I recognize that in you and appreciate what you do. And we look forward to seeing you at the next upcoming events and all of the things and all of the places, and just keeping our skis pointed downhill as we're going here, there, and everywhere.
Love it. Thanks, Russ. Really appreciate it.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. If you have more questions, be sure to check out Roller Software and be able to check out the Guest Experience podcast with Josh. Also, check out the Attraction Pros podcast with him and Matt Heller. Always some great content. If this is the kind of thing that moves your needle and you're looking for more ways to do that, these are the folks to talk to. So appreciate you all. Be well, and we'll see you next time.